We have a common enemy.
Is there anyone that can help you? Do you have a family? Oh, me.
Bumblebee, there is only one way to end this war. You must protect Earth and its people.
Do not run! She ran.
My backseat! That was insane.
Bumblebee.
Aloha! This is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man. And tonight, Saturday night, the 8th of December, I had the opportunity to purchase a special advance screening ticket of Bumblebee. This wasn't free. I did buy my ticket along with a sold-out crowd over at Ward Warehouse Consolidated Theaters to go ahead and see what's going to open up on the 21st to everyone, the new Transformers movie reboot, Bumblebee. And well, remember our rating scale. Shaka thumbs up, it's good to see, I recommend it. Shaka thumbs down, it's junk, I don't recommend it, don't see it. And for Bumblebee, the new Transformers reboot movie, it is a Shaka thumbs up. Let me just say that Michael Bay was one of the producers on this movie. However, this brings in a whole fresh, brand new idea of actually kind of basing it on the comic books. Or not the comic books, but the cartoon. And, you know, there was a Marvel run comic book associated with Hasbro, leased through Hasbro, you know, back in the 80s. And I want to say up until like the early 90s, I believe. If you happen to have one of those encyclopedias where Marvel does all their heroes, they actually did do the Transformers in there, and you can read up on Optimus Prime. And I happen to recall just one quote from it there at the end when it was summarizing up Optimus Prime, that yes, it could be said that if he was a harder leader, he might have been more effective. However, he would not be Optimus Prime. So that being said, this is set in 1987. Totally wipes the board clean of all the other Michael Bay directed Transformer movies. Thankfully, especially with the sour taste of The Last Night, still unfortunately somewhat fresh and cemented, scorched, burned, scarred into everyone's memory of the most recent other Transformers movie. But this one, directed by Travis Knight, fresh from Kubo and the Two Strings, you know, really makes great strides in erasing those awful Bay movies from the Transformer sequels, and opens up this one to a new, fresh interpretation. Again, like I say, it is set in the 80s, 1987, in the San Francisco area, a place called Brighton Hills. I don't know if that's an actual place or not. But Bumblebee finds himself stranded there on Earth, escaping the Decepticons after a 5-minute opening on Cybertron, where we see the war full in effect, very much so like the 80s cartoon, where the Autobots must flee, losing Cybertron to the Decepticons and looking for a place to regroup, a place to set up a new base so that they might be able to come back and take on the Decepticons and re-win their homeworld of Cybertron once more. That, in the first 5 minutes, that is everything a true Transformers fan of the cartoon, of the anime, wanted to see, of the original Transformers, the movie. wanted to see, and we get to see it. That being said, there is one slight flaw, one slight problem with this, in the fact that even John Campea from the trailers mentioned, and unfortunately I cannot ignore it, Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, we don't see their vehicle forms. We don't see the Autobots' vehicles forms until they're on Earth. However, I believe the Decepticons, for some reasons, do seem to take on the shapes of those planes that look like United States or Earth military jet fighters. Possibly I'm wrong. Possibly it could just be some generic type of fighter aircraft, native to Cybertron, but nothing like we had seen in the cartoons. That could be the only possible flaw or plot hole in this, is that they have that. But to be fair, we do not see them transform, at least the Autobots, into their vehicle forms until Earth, whereas they do take on vehicles, automobiles, and become the Autobots. Now, that's a small thing, I feel. And a diehard fan, a fan of the Transformers, is just going to ignore that. And I don't have a problem with it. It doesn't affect my shock a thumbs up for the movie at all, as the history is still rich, and what is depicted within those first 5 minutes fits so well into what we already know from the 80s, from the actual cartoon itself. And this flows right into that, instead of Bumblebee finding a boy to befriend. It is this girl who finds him, and due to his crash landing on Earth, he has lost his memory. It's a little windy here, so forgive me if the cameras swing a little bit. It's been kind of gusty all day, but yes, so he has lost his memory, but with the help and care of this young girl, he is able to find it once more deep within himself, in time to save the day. No spoilers here, but from what you had seen from the trailers, you pretty much get this already. That's the gist of it. This stars, I think, newcomer Haley Stansfield, John Cena, and another newcomer, Jorge Liebrogue Jr., I believe. Those are the three main characters, along with Bumblebee, who, along with his memory, loses his voice and must use what he had used in the other films, the radio, to communicate. But it flows and it works, and I don't mind them keeping that as canon from the other Transformer shows, especially when he is, the VW Bug, associated with the comics. I will give, associated with the cartoon and, the early movie. I will give you one spoiler, though. At the very end, he does switch into a Camaro form. But that is by no means associating it or connecting it or directly tying it to the Michael Bay movies, because I believe that this fresh start is enough, definitely, to keep everything alive. And what I hope is that enough people see this movie to where we can get a reiterated live action version of Transformers the movie, which this falls very much well into form, if not within the next sequel, definitely sequels down the way, to see maybe that that fantastic, animated movie brought to life in full scale. Because when you do see them fighting on Cybertron, when you do see Optimus Prime fighting on Cybertron against the Decepticons, when you see Bumblebee, despite him not being, definitely he was never one of the more powerful Autobots, often joking that he was always the weakest. He is plucky, to say the least, in this movie, and it is his determination that he is able to overcome these other Decepticons, including Starscream, and like I say, win the day. So yes, this is definitely a shock, a thumbs up. It does have some problems. Like I said, Travis Knight seems to have difficulty attempting to pace out character development properly in this movie. By the end of the movie, having watched the entire movie, you feel these characters are fleshed out enough. Bumblebee is fleshed out enough. Haley Stansfield's character is fleshed out enough. Even John Cena's character is adequately, depicted well enough throughout the movie that you can understand why in the trailers he is such a dick. And that's why I didn't, that was my hesitation with this film originally from the trailers, is like, why does he have to be such a dick? That doesn't make any sense. But fortunately, it does make sense. A lot of his men are killed upon first meeting Bumblebee and some of these Decepticons. And honestly, he doesn't know who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, just that they're aliens, and, he has to defend himself, his troops, his nation, the world, against these invaders. It's a common enough theme, and especially set in the 80s against the Cold War and the looming threat of the Russian possible invasion at the time. You can understand that. Just think of, say, like movies like Red Dawn, especially. He is one of these people, one of these military, head honchos that, are full G.I. Joe regalia, pretty much. Which is not a bad thing, and that was definitely the macho-ness of the 80s right there, especially with military movies. And so him taking on this role, this portrayal, fits, and especially what happens to him and his men and by the hands of what he sees as invaders makes sense, makes perfect sense for this, and you kind of understand where he is and where he comes from in this movie at the beginning and especially at the end. It is the feeling of Haley Stansfield's character and Bumblebee that really brings things together and ties it emotionally, gets you invested within their relationship, friendship, whereas she has to go through some things, being estranged from her family, who with a new father as her mother seems to have just worked out this new relationship, and being lost in her life at that time, finding a friend who is also lost, not only of his memories but of his entire planet, and friends and species, the Autobots, far from home. So so they definitely form a great bond. So yes, definitely go ahead and check out this movie when it opens wide. It is a shock, a thumbs up. I'm glad I could review it a little early. I feel like somebody from the mainland. Even though I had to pay, I didn't get a press pass and seen it as early as some of these other reviewers. But I'm glad I saw it, and this definitely hits a new tone in the Transformers movie, and I think Travis Knight is doing great things and will continue to do great things as a director, whether he goes back to his stop motion animation movies, or if he sticks with this CGI live, actors combined, and hopefully he stays with the Transformer franchise, and Hasbro has the faith to push on with Paramount in this new direction, because it is, again, well worth it. Shock and thumbs up all the way for this movie, and even owning it later on digitally or on DVD. All right, thank you so much. This is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man, saying aloha, and definitely check out Bumblebee when you have the chance. All right, thank you, and again, aloha.